Hello and welcome. This is a quick little training on retaining walls and actually how to look at your property differently so that you can avoid spending all your budget on retaining walls. Now, I've been designing gardens for the last 20 years, so I've learned quite a lot of how to actually make the most of your budget. And for some reason, architects and builders don't seem to teach you this, so I'm going to share what I know with you for free. So let's begin. Now, there are so many different opportunities to actually not have retaining walls. A lot of people, they see these sort of retaining walls all the time, and they're spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 on these super ugly retaining walls, and it breaks my heart when I see this. So, they're completely unnecessary in a lot of situations. Sometimes you do need to deal with a level change with a retaining wall, and in that situation, I'm going to explain what you can do. So if you're a new build, you typically, you will see your house plans and they'll have this hatched area, which you see that I've marked up here. And that's going to explain to the builder the site cut that is required. Now, the draftsperson or architect, they just do a basic, site cut. They don't really think about how the garden's going to be designed. And then your builder just, does the earth mover does that shape just, to meet council planning requirements. That shape really doesn't need to be the way that it is. It's really just for practical reasons that when they're building the house, that the builders and the trades people can actually access the site safely. So what I really want you to understand is do not stick with this site cut shape, generally speaking, okay? Most of the time, if you do, this is what you end up with. This is typical of just building retaining walls according to the shape of the site cut that you received from your builder or designer. It really is such a missed opportunity, and these walls are so expensive. And I don't think they add any value to your house at all. In fact, it's a missed opportunity. So there are better solutions than this, and start to think about, what you can do. And this is what I do. I always, when I come into a new site for the first time, I actually change the site cut. I manipulate the soil levels. I don't stick with what is shown on the hatch drawing, and I don't want you to either. So this is a new build, and before the land here is falling away. So it, doesn't look that steep in the photograph, but it was reasonably steep. What we did is, instead of having retaining walls, we actually brought in soil and we lifted up the land so that it didn't fall away so steeply. And this helped with maintenance. So a little bit of a progress shot. We could have, in a traditional sense, put retaining right up around that fresh soil that you see there and created a whole structure that would be expensive. They didn't have the budget for that, so we didn't do it. We added in extra soil that we got free from another site, and we started to build up the slope, and we had the space to adjust the levels. And then this is it afterwards. No retaining walls anywhere to be seen. None required now. Okay, so I really want you to think a little bit different. And another thing that we do is, if we do need to deal with a level change, why don't we use materials that would, be in keeping with the landscape and soft and natural where we can. And you can actually use local stone, get earth movers in, and you can actually create a rock batter like this. Now, you do need to have some site access. So I'll talk later on of, if you're in a suburban block and it's really tight, what you can do when you need to retain soil and you've got level changes. Okay, there's always a way. Here's another property, and they've used large boulders, to retain the embankment, and they've also got timber sleeper steps as retaining. And this is all really natural and really quite easy to create. It does require some heavy machinery. Okay, now if you've got no budget at all but you do have the space, well then I would really recommend actually just using plants and an embankment, just really mass plant it, and the roots are going to help retain that soil and stop it from moving down. So this is another simple thing. I've actually got a free download if you like. It's called my Hardy Plant Selection. you can go onto my website and get it. It's got some fantastic plants that work anywhere in the world to, really on a budget, mass plant like this, and they'll help retain the soil. So here's another property, no retaining, they're just utilising the slope. Now let's say, for instance, you do actually need to retain. Well, you do have options. And one thing that I'd like you to consider is, instead of doing a really high retaining wall and getting quotes for that, if it's actually terraced, and in most situations, if you're under a metre, you don't actually always need council planning requirements, and that also means you don't need engineering in most situations. Now they still need to be built properly, but I'm trying to unlock in your mind the potential of your site. Okay, and you can see here, these are really beautiful additions. So if I'm going to spend money on retaining walls, I really want to make it really impactful, and I really want to help it make a beautiful garden for me. I just don't want to have the sole purposes of retaining soil. I think there's so much more. Now, if you've got a site that's quite narrow, a great product to use is cordon steel or mild steel. Okay, cordon steel is a bit more expensive than mild steel. It's been heat treated, so it adds a protective rust layer to it. Okay, now mild steel still lasts 20, 30 years, even longer, depending on the thickness. Okay, but it doesn't provide a protective rust layer. It still looks rusty, but actually over time it does corrode. But I still use it a lot on gardens. I just go for a little bit of a heavier thickness, okay, because it is actually a good bit cheaper. So cordon steel, the profile, you can get it at such, narrow profiles that it actually is saving a lot of space. And I do have a video, and you can access it through my website, that actually is all about a little garden that I did, and it was a courtyard, and we used the cordon steel to save space. And also because it's a lot easier, you can manually handle it. You don't need the big heavy machinery to get it in. So if your access is tight, it's a really good opportunity to use this product. Now you can get them, already manufactured to the lengths that you want. There's just heaps of different options out there. The next thing, that if you're on a rural property, and one of the things people always have on a rural property is a water tank. And they spend all this money on the water tank and then all this money retaining the water tank, which drives me nuts, because I actually think if you've got the space, you could actually look at earth mounding. And I'm just going to show you here. This is earth mounding here. And what we've done is, there's the house, and you would have actually been able to see the water tank. But what I've done is I've put the mounding, the earth mounding, on the side facing the house so that you don't actually see it. And there's no retaining. And as you can see, all it is there's no retaining there. It's just simply earth mounding, and the mound is made up mostly of subsoil, and then we put good topsoil on top. So there are situations where either you've inherited a house and it's got this huge retaining wall, or you're building and you've actually spent all your money and you've got no money for landscaping. And if that is the case, well, I think it's really worth having a plan. Even if you can't afford to do everything that you want to do, at least if you have a plan, you know where you're heading. So you can eventually still get to the final result that you're looking for. Now, what I've done over the last 20 years, I've designed over 600 gardens, and all of them had a plan to work towards. They did get installed in different stages according to the budget. A few gardens have been well recognised in the media, and one in particular was my own garden, where I won the Design Files Award for Native Retreat Studio. And I was also on the Dream Gardens ABC TV, where we actually, installed this garden, designed it and installed it. But if you're at the very beginning and you're either refreshing an old garden, or you are, building your dream home, and you don't have the money at the moment for all the landscaping, don't skip the planning phase, because in that you'll make some rash decisions, and you'll be guided by other people and what they want for your property. So you'll get a quote from a landscaper, and they're going to actually quote for what they can build, okay? Not necessarily what you want. So I think that if you step back a little bit, do some planning and work out what you want and how much you want to spend, and get some expert advice, I think you're going to save so much more money in the long run. If you like, what I have done is I've put this program together, And it's basically a 10-step framework, and it's how I approach garden design, when I'm looking at a site for the first time. So I'm teaching you how I do it. It's all bite-sized and you can do it at your own pace, but the benefit is you can also go through with a cohort, and we have live Zoom calls, Q&As, and that's where I assess your site and help you come up with a concept plan that will work and that will be according to your budget, which is really important. And then if you do want to do some parts yourself, you've got some construction drawings, you can take off pieces, you can maybe do the plants plant up, or you can do parts of it if you like, or you can give it to a landscaper to quote. And that's really valuable so that you can really go into a situation where over time you can actually build your garden and have it the way that you like. Now, you can start off small. You might just start off on a section, and then you might work to the next section, all, as you've got the money. But it is important that if you've got a dream of how you want to be, it's within your control to create that. Okay, don't let money be the thing that stops you. Having a plan means that you can actually do it. It just might be on a different time frame. And then at least you know where you're spending your money. This person, they wanted to have like a kitchen orchard garden, and they did that over time. And this is my family. We spend a lot of time in my garden, and we have lots of family functions, and I love it because I invested in my garden and I installed it in stages. Now this is one of the students, Kerry. This is a suburban garden. She's on the program, the Design Your Dream Gardens, and she sort of mapped out everything, the look and feel for all the different spaces. She's giving this to a landscaper now, and it's currently getting built. And then Nick, another student, bought an old church and she's converting it. And she wanted a more formal style garden. And this is what's great about the program. I'm not just teaching you my unique style which is quite natural and, informal. I also, have designed lots of other style gardens. So if you'd like a more formal style, we can also go through that on the program and make sure that it's suited to your site and that it's actually what you love. If you'd like to join my Design Your Dream Gardens program, if you'd like to have me helping you to come up with a concept plan for your property, one that's suited to your site and your budget, use this discount code at the checkout, and I would love to see you in the program and to help and collaborate with you. Bye for now.